We're going to hear from two speakers. One now is, we heard from an author today, we heard from consultants, we heard from a mom. I'm going to introduce you. If you haven't met this name before, I think this is about the fourth or fifth time I've introduced Lisa Donohue, who teaches in York region, and she's got some great titles here. Just look at these great, I mean, the titles say so much. Guided Listening was, I think, your first one, Guided Listening. And then I heard her speak about independent reading inside the box, a great framework for the independent reading program, working with her kids. In the spring, I think it was May, we were somewhere far, Hamilton or something. I introduced Lisa with The Right Beginning, again looking at the writing connection and taking us on the journey of writing. And from May until today, she's got a new book. The woman's amazing. And this is Keeping It Real, giving us a framework for new literacies. Lisa teaches in York Region, grade 4-5 classroom, and folks, this is an amazing teacher, an amazing teacher. I'm always proud to introduce Lisa Donohue.
I'm Lisa. Just before we get started, I just want to do a quick read of the room because we've been listening to a lot of people, and I just want to know my audience a little bit before we start. So how many people are classroom teachers? All right, so I think we all need to say a huge thank you to Mary for getting us out of school on November 1st. And I think we all need to have just a minute of silence for our supply teachers who are back at the ranch and facing the post-Halloween sugar rush. Mary, if you need another date for the spring, I think we're all available on April 1st. That works well for all of us. That date is clear on my calendar. I'm going to bring you, talk to you a little bit about the new literacies, and this came up last year. I was talking with a colleague, David Booth, and we were talking about the new literacies and where they are in the classrooms and how to bring it all together. So before I begin, just a quick survey. How many of you, your primary source of research is Google? Oh, come on. First thing you need to know, you Google it, right? Okay, I'm a Googler. How about, okay, time for honesty. We're all friends. We've been together for a few hours now. How many people use Facebook? What do you use Facebook for? What do you use? What's the primary purpose for Facebook? Fantastic. I have a cousin who's in the Caribbean, and I can tell you what she wore for Halloween last night. I checked in with my relatives to find out how Hurricane Tomas was doing, how it was affecting them. I have a cousin in England. I keep in touch with him. Fantastic networking tool. Do we have any twits in the room? Twitters? Do we use Twitter? You've had Twitters? Twitter's a fantastic professional resource. If you haven't hooked on to Twitter yet, it is a fantastic professional resource. You just need to know who to follow, so make sure you're following people who are putting you in the right direction. Anybody use Moodle or Sakai? Okay, fantastic. Some Moodle users, Sakai. What Moodle is, it's an interactive, secure class website. I'm a big believer in Moodle. It's a primary part of my classroom. And the last one I want to just quick check is, how many people use Prezi? Fantastic. Anybody think that Prezi is a gift that I'm going to give you? No? Okay. Prezi is a new form of presentation. It's a presentation format. And the beautiful thing about Prezi is it is non-linear. So whereas we look at a PowerPoint as being a linear presentation where we move from one slide to the next, when we move through Prezi, we actually navigate through it. So it's a little bit different. And I'm going to be using Prezi as a presentation format for today. If you like what you see and you would like to try Prezi, Prezi is a Web 2.0 tool, which means it is on the internet. And the beautiful thing about a Web 2.0 tool is that it is accessible from anywhere you can get online. So you don't need to carry things around on USBs. It's automatically stored in a third-party server, which means it's, I don't know where, stored in cyberspace somewhere. And when I log in and I put in my password, I can open up my Prezi, I can continue working on it, and then I can save it. And somewhere in cyberspace, it gets stored until I need to work on it again. And then the beautiful thing about Prezi is when you're finished, you can download it to your desktop so that you don't need to pray to the gods of technology that your internet doesn't go down in the middle of a presentation. So I'm going to be using a Prezi. There you go. All right, so I'm going to be talking to you about learning in the 21st century. So this book came about last year when I was talking with some people about the new literacies. And I started thinking about exactly what are the new literacies and how do we define these new literacies as they are evolving and changing in the 21st century. And I think we all agree that reading, writing, listening, and speaking are literacies that have been in place for a long time. And by no means do they cease to be important. In fact, I don't think of them as the old literacies. I think of them as the fundamental literacies. And I think of as we move into the 21st century and we look at the new literacies in terms of digital literacy and media literacy and critical literacy and social literacy, that in order to be proficient in these new areas of literacy, you must first be comfortable and proficient with the foundational ones. In order to interact in a digital world, you need to know how to read and write. In order to interact with social literacies, you must know how to listen and speak. In order to be critically literate, you need to be able to read and think about the things that you are reading. So the literacies, the new literacies, are intertwined with the old literacies. When I think of digital literacy, okay, when I think of digital literacy, I think of it as the ability to find information, to understand information, to evaluate and organize information with a range of digital tools. It's not just a matter of being able to use digital technology, it's having a toolkit of digital resources that you know which ones to use when, how to use them, you know which one is the best for which application. So I think of digital literacy as that knowledge of all the different digital tools. How do you use them and which one is best suited for its purpose? Media literacy. Media literacy has become much more forward in the last few years. And we think of media literacy as our ability to analyze and evaluate, interpret messages from all sorts of communication. When I think of media literacy, it's a critical analysis of the messages. So what is the message saying? Who put this message out there? I was listening to a beautiful conversation of a group of grade 7 boys sitting in a computer pod the other day, a discovery pod with laptops, and they were arguing about an image they had found on the internet, whether it was a real car or not. They were critically literate. They were looking at it. They were trying to figure out what was being shared on that internet. Was it real? Was it too good to be true? Okay, so who put out that message? Looking for biases. Why is that message there? What exactly do you want from me as I'm reading this message? Looking at different perspectives. Interesting, I was at a literacy conference in York Region Board, and one of the things that we were thinking about was that the age of technology has enabled all voices to be heard. And somebody said, no, it's not true, because not all voices are heard. When you start thinking about whose voices are heard, many voices are heard, but many voices are not heard. Think of older generations. Perhaps their voices are not being heard. Think of people in developing countries. Perhaps their voices are not being heard. So again, we need to think about different perspectives, and then think about form and meaning as we look at different forms of media. Social literacy. Social literacy isn't anything new. We know how to interact with each other, how to talk face to face. How do we communicate with others? How do we adapt our behavior to different situations? I have 2 children. I would hope that they're developing their social literacy skills. They know that what they do at home is different than what they're able to do when we're out in public or in church or anywhere else. What they get away with their friends on the schoolyard is perhaps different than what they would get away with in my house. So we think of their social literacy. It's not new. We think back to Miss Manners and etiquette, and please say thank you, and yes, and children walking around with books on their heads to have proper posture. Well, what is new about social literacy is as it moves into the digital world, as it moves into the 21st century, there's a whole new form of social literacy. It's that how do you connect with each other through the internet when it's not face-to-face, when it's online. When we think of social networking, I am a huge user of Facebook. I use Facebook a lot because it's a way of keeping in touch with my friends and family. But I am very aware of my social identity. I'm aware that anything I put out there on Facebook is public information. I am aware that anything I post as my status can be perceived as part of my social identity. I'm careful about the things I put. I would never put anything negative or slanderous about people I work with or for, and that's something that we need to teach our children. They think that because they have access to social networking tools, it gives them freedom of speech. They need to be careful. They need to recognize that everything they put out there contributes to their social identity. Whatever they put on Facebook, whatever they put on Twitter, that all develops who they are in society. They are developing a social identity. The other thing, as we think about social literacy, is when I went to school, we used to talk about street-proofing our children. And how do you stay safe? And don't let anybody in when you're home by yourself. Don't answer the phone if your parents aren't home. And that was really easy to protect our children because we knew who the big bad stranger was. It was somebody that you could see. As our children move into the digital world, we need to think about street-proofing them in the 21st century. And as educators, it's our job to do that because unfortunately, a lot of our parents perhaps are not as comfortable with that as us. And we need to teach kids, what do you do when you encounter something on the internet? What do you do when you come across something that makes you feel uncomfortable? When you open your computer and you turn yourself onto the world, you're inviting the world into your house. What are you going to tell them? Okay, so we need to street-proof our children for the 21st century using digital tools. Critical literacy, again, it's nothing new. It's a newly defined literacy as we start moving into different ways of thinking about different texts that we encounter, looking at underlying messages, thinking about our opinions of text. You know, it's great to have an opinion, and a text can either support my opinion or it could be contradictory to me. And that's okay. I don't have to agree with everything I read. Just because it is written does not mean it is true. And as our kids get into the digital world, they're able to access multiple sources of information in order to become critically aware and start analyzing things. Do these sources tell me the same thing? Or which one is more right? So again, when we think about researching, Google is a pretty reliable source for starting to find information. Wikipedia, on the other hand, okay, so we need to teach our kids being critically literate. Where did you find this information? How accurate is it? How can you verify that information?